Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Tape, a podcast where we chat to people doing rad things in the mountain bike industry. And today we have an absolute banger. This guy is doing something quite amazing with a crew of rad Australians getting around the world. Before I introduce the guests though, let's talk about some supporters that support the podcast. Trek offers some of the most amazing bikes on the market, and you can now get them online. So jump to trek.com.au, order your bike, get it to your door, super easy. Franked, remember, if you want to get some of the best fitting clothing, the most comfortable clothing, use Beyond the Tape 10 at the checkout to get some of the best tech shirts, AirTech jerseys, pants, shorts, best stuff in the game. Fist gloves, man, their new chapter is amazing, and as we come into winter, I'm absolutely loving their cold weather gloves. Remember, Beyond the Tape gets you some discount. Shred in winter is an absolute must. Their bike wash is just shedding the mud off my bike. Been frothing it now that I'm on it. Lead Out Sports, I mean, they offer the best tools in the business, but they also offer the backcountry research strap. So, you know, if you want to strap on and get on, then hit up Lead Out Sports. Tailored Trails. These guys are absolutely amazing. If you want the best, the easiest, and the funnest time down in Tassie's, make sure you hit up Tailored Trails for a unique experience. And as we're talking about mud, make sure you get Dirt Surface 100% recycled, 100% recyclable mud guards that are absolutely amazing. Custom designs. And talking about custom designs, let's not forget Capped Out. These guys are absolutely killing it in custom caps. So if you want to get something unique for your race or for your brand, hit up those guys. Anyway, that's enough of me dribbling. In this episode, I'm chatting with Jamie Foale. He is one half of the crew that created Fusion Racing, where we're going to see a bunch of young Australians going overseas to absolutely rip it. So we chat about a bit of everything, how it all came about and what their plans are for the future, and a whole bunch about sponsorship and junior development, etc. So, as per usual, grab a beer, grab water, grab a wine, and enjoy this podcast. Yeah. I'll go along those lines.
You can remember it. Impressive.
No, they were just literally my train of thought when I was at the computer. That's why there were so many spelling mistakes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Sick. Jamie Foale, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, Darren. Thanks for having us all on.
That's all good. It's a bit weird talking to someone that I've known and spoken to for a while and actually interviewing them.
Yes. I guess we've been around the scene in Adelaide for a while now. I think Kael's first race was probably 2016.
Yeah, right.
In Adelaide. I did a few races long before that, but had a massive break of no riding to have kids and all of that. So it was great to come back and get back on two wheels.
Yeah, sick.
And now it's great to see both kids ripping it and enjoying it.
They are ripping too. It's wild to see them progressing.
The scene is incredible in Adelaide at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. For those who don't know you or haven't known you for years, who are you and what are you going to do? And
I guess my name's Jamie Foale. I've been around bikes for a long time. Came to downhill pretty late in my time. You know, not like a lot of these kids getting into it at 12, 13 and whatever. I spent my younger years racing motos, racing dirt bikes. Got out of that when I was at sort of uni years.
Yeah.
Did a bit of road racing on 250s and GP bikes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Raced in a bunch of support races down at Phillip Island, and got comprehensively spat out the back, but it was a bloody good time. That place is incredible. Did a bit of that, and somewhere along the way got into mountain bikes as a bit of cross training, just for something different. Certainly a lot cheaper than racing motorbikes.
Yeah.
And loved it. Never really looked back. Just had a great time. Lived in Canada for a bit. Then got into racing back in Adelaide after a stint overseas, and hooked up with some boys at the local bike shop. Worked in the bike industry for a bunch of years here in Adelaide, and and then, like I said, took a big break from racing.
Yep.
Until the kids came along and they got into bikes, which is cool.
You didn't want to get them into road moto racing?
Pass.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if we were going to support that at that age, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea you did that. That's wild.
It was good fun. I really enjoyed the road biking, but pretty narrow kind of activity. But there's still, nothing quite like, tipping in a couple 100 k's an hour type thing.
Yeah.
Is pretty special. But having said that, the variety that's in mountain biking, and especially in different downhill tracks, is incredible. I really love it. Just love riding and getting out there with mates, and now getting out there with the whole family.
Yeah. We're blessed here. Like, you've got 5 or 6 trail centres within 10 minutes of your house, right?
Yeah. It means I don't really go anywhere else at the moment. We just kind of ride around here.
Yeah. So you've done something pretty big in the last year or so. Obviously, Kael's been riding pretty well, and you guys went overseas last year, but you've kind of started a team. Can you tell us a bit about that? Yeah,
well, I guess that did start last year, or the thought process towards it started last year. As you know, Kael was scraped onto the world's team last year, and so to tack onto that, we did the last round in Valli Hoel. Then we tacked a third event. We went to the last IXS round in Italy, down in Pila.
Yeah.
Massive eye-opening experience for him, and a quick kind of 3 week straight of racing. And I know at the end of that, when he'd had a good run over there, had a great time, met some cool people. Obviously, head blown apart by those kind of trails.
Yeah.
Things went pretty well in Pila. And I think he had by then relaxed into it a bit more. And I just remember the talk then is like, okay, well, what are we going to do to get back here? How are we going to take that next step and get more exposure to that level of racing and those level of tracks? So, I knew that there were some options. Obviously, Oz Cycling offer the Federation jerseys, wear your Aussie jersey for the races. And that was an option. Obviously, any kid who wants to race overseas also wants to have their sponsors on the jersey, and that's not an option with the Aussie jersey. And so for a few reasons, that and some other reasons around, certainty of being able to guaranteed entry every race, and a whole bunch of other reasons, I started to think about how possible it might be to start a UCI team, and gather a few people together that have kind of similar goals to us, Didn't really go very far until quite late in the piece. Had been looking into what it would take, which was obviously a fair bit of work. And thinking about who we would team up with. At that time in Adelaide, there's not. We kicked a few tires. There wasn't really a lot of people interested in Adelaide. Not a lot of people at that same level or willing to wanting to take that next big jump. But I think the great thing about the Aussie mountain bike scene is that we'd spent quite a bit of time this summer, as we did last summer, interstate, meeting a lot more interstate riders and families. And up at Illenbar, I just, had a few conversations with different people, find out what people were doing, and stumbled across, Will Island. Well, not stumbled across, we knew Will Island and his dad, Jeremy, and just started talking to him. And it turned out that, Big Jez was interested. Keen to go down the same road. And Will, obviously, pretty promising young rider as well. And so slowly over the next, couple of months, we started to, piece together what it might look like. A
few things I want to unpack in that, but firstly, you mentioned the trade team and making it easy to get every round. It's because if you're a UCI trade team or you're a UCI registered team, you're pretty much guaranteed entry instead of having to have points. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. If you're elite riders obviously need to get a certain number of points, and then can just go as a privateer, and do whatever they like. For juniors, it's a slightly different system in that you would have to apply to Oz Cycling for one of the jerseys. I think last year they had 6 positions at each round, and that's how Kael, applied to go to Valli Hoel. But you obviously aren't guaranteed because there might be 10 or 15 kids in Australia that want to apply for it. So you're at the mercy of that system a little bit. Whereas if you do form a team, like you said, if you form a proper UCI team, then you're guaranteed an entry at every event.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to work out the process for that? Because it is hard to find anything around that.
Well, I think even harder because of the transition, in the sport from last year to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard, and I think part of it was a lot of rumor. We couldn't find any information about what was going to change, and there was talk of the team fees like just being out of control, expensive, and that would have been an absolute showstopper for us. So
yeah, exactly.
We kind of sat on it and tentatively, moved towards it until we could find out what was happening. And I guess in December, might have been roughly December, that some of those announcements started to come out. And then we realised actually, it might be feasible. Yeah. And we'll do what we can to jump on it.
The prices did go up a fair bit from when you would have started looking to...
I think from last year to this year, I think they roughly doubled.
Yeah.
But there was talk of them, times 6 and ridiculous numbers like that. So luckily that was all just bad rumours and it ended up, more expensive, but still achievable.
And we touched on you need points, and part of the reason you're doing this is to avoid the whole point situation. It's almost impossible for Kael to get enough points without being in Europe or being in other countries, or it's impossible for Ellie or most of them to do it through the point system. Is that a big part of the whole team as well? It's
certainly a factor. I mean, I think with events in Australia like the Nationals and Oceanas and, Cranksworks and so on, there's some points that would allow you to go and race as a privateer. But like I said, that's not an option for juniors.
True. Yeah.
But certainly for the elite riders, they could go and do that. So Josh, might have had enough points from Oceanas or Nationals. He obviously did, pretty well at the Nationals.
Yeah.
So they might have, but it's, that's pretty late in the season to kind of know where you stand to then, right now, let's quickly plan to go to Europe.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the only reason. I felt last year that going as, one rider, one dad, it was okay, but we didn't have any support network around us. And so if you're a young elite rider, maybe you're not with mum and dad anymore. It's potentially pretty hard for you to get there with the right support.
Yeah.
Or you're doing it as a privateer out the back of your van by yourself or with one other person.
Yeah. There's no one to lean on if anything goes wrong.
Yeah, that's right. So I did feel that if we got a few people together that were in a similar boat and, keen to get that experience, then we're going to be in a better position to support each other.
Yeah.
Create a good, fun, supportive team environment. That way we've got a presence in the pits.
Yeah.
And we can, go better than solo.
Who's on the team for the year? Who have you picked, and how'd you kind of pick them as well?
Well, obviously Will, from having spoken, from teeing that up early on with Jeremy, and then it was just a matter of finding out, who was available, who wanted to go to Europe, and whether they were keen to jump on board. So we spoke to a bunch of people. Jeremy over on the East Coast obviously knows a lot more of those guys from local club races.
Yeah.
And he did a great job of, networking and we met different people and just, sort of managed to find people that are really on the same page.
Yeah. So you've got, was it Josh, Arcus, Ellie, Duke?
Yeah, elite. So we've got 3 elite.
Yeah, the elites.
Ellie Smith, obviously, elite woman. Josh Arcus, who, again, elite male, did pretty well at the Nationals and in the National Series, pulling into second, I think, overall. And then Duke, who has, obviously that was his focus has been more around, free ride and slope style, that sort of thing, pump track. But, he certainly enjoyed, he says, his return to racing, so keen to get out and do a World Cup or two. In the juniors, Kael and Will and another lad from interstate or from over east as well, Alex Lord.
Yeah. So,
so Alex and Will are both first year juniors.
Yeah. Cool.
And both obviously doing really well as first year juniors. So I think it's a great step for them to get overseas in their first year of juniors. I think it was hugely beneficial for Kael to go over there and experience that in your first year of juniors when it doesn't really matter. So I think it'll be great for those guys to get over there, in year one.
I think having Duke on board as well is going to be good because he'll be able to help range and he beats to his own drum, old Dukey.
For sure. But he's, he knows how to do a track walk. He'll be hot on lines. He's obviously good on the tools. He'll be great support for Ellie and the rest of us. And, as you know, good fun dude too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Talking to him today. So obviously you had to do it all by yourself last year with Kael, which in some ways is easier because you're only trying to find accommodation for two of you. What's it been like trying to plan and get everyone together and herd some cats? And
it's a big logistical job for sure. I would hazard a guess to say a little bit more so for our style of team than maybe a more professional, fully formed team where everyone does everything together all the time. In some ways, we're still a group of individuals who, come in under the banner of Fusion Racing. But, as you know, everyone's got a lot of their own sponsors and so on. So everyone probably won't do every round. Duke's going to concentrate on a few slopestyle events and some other stuff in Europe. So he won't probably do as many World Cups. But most of the team will stick it out and do most of the European rounds. But it's been big. It's been a big job for sure.
I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want to do it. That's for sure. How's it been managing you guys' sponsors? Because obviously Kael's on Fox and YT, then Ellie's on Darko and a multitude of
Darko. And we've got a few of the riders obviously riding their commensals. Alex on his propane, Kael on his YT. We've got a range of clothing brands between Will with his Troy Lee. A few of the riders on their Darko kit. Obviously Ellie, Josh, Ellie, Josh, and Duke. And then Kael on his Fox gear. So
and then Alex on Reckless.
Alex is now on Reckless, which is cool.
So that's got to be tough to kind of manage. And
it is and it isn't because those riders have developed those relationships over those last few years of riding in Australia and getting to where they've got to with their own riding. And so super important that that's still a part of what they do as a start off team. We don't have that budget, we don't have that connection yet as a formed team to really try and bring anyone under the same banner. So in that sense, the riders will be able to continue to push their own brands, keep their own relationships and so on. And us as a team will be supporting all of the riders, but we won't be pushing any one particular brand of clothing or bike or whatever.
I think that's pretty cool for juniors as well, because trying to buy a bike or get a new bike all the time or having a switch and stuff, it's pretty hard because you guys aren't getting that stuff for free. Like most of the guys are still paying for it.
I think you touched on something there as well, is that I think most of the riders have probably been on their respective rigs for a few years now. Obviously Ellie's more new to commensal, but otherwise people have been on their bikes for a while. And you get used to it. And you know how to ride it, you know how to work on it. So I think this year that's a good thing. Everyone stays in their comfort zone. The kit they are used to, the relationships they're used to, the bikes they're used to. And this will be like an extension of Aussie national racing.
And I mean, most people might know this, but like some of the support these guys are getting is not huge. Like even though they've got a commensal tag on their shirt or big Fox logo, they're not getting paid thousands of dollars every year to go and race. I mean, some of them might be, but is it hard kind of trying to find that support in Australia at the moment from brands, especially with like the market?
Yeah, I guess Australia is still a much smaller market than Europe, you know, and a lot of that World Cup racing is obviously centred on Europe. You know, that's where the viewers are. That's where the population is.
Yeah.
You know, we're a relatively small scene here in Australia. Obviously, you know, we probably do pretty well given our size.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, the brands that I can only speak for, you know, the brands that we've worked with for Kael, and you know, they've been really good.
Yeah.
I think the support that comes for, you know, junior riders has actually been pretty good. But yeah, you're right. I don't think many people in Australia are making much money out of mountain bike brands. But
no.
But that's, you know, that's the market we have, and it's a good stepping stone to try and get overseas and get noticed.
So would you say that you're almost setting up like a feeder team to the Euro feeder teams in some way? Like you're taking these guys and helping them get to the Europe where they can maybe get noticed from like a smaller feeder team over there and go to the factory team? Or is that kind of what you're thinking? Or
look, it could go one of two ways.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting this year to see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, the whole mission of the team is to you know, take junior riders and young elites, or help existing, you know, riders get overseas where they might have otherwise struggled. Get them over there in a team format.
Yeah.
And simply get them more exposure to that scene, which I think we can do better as a team rather than a group of individuals.
Yeah.
And if that means that that's a springboard for them to get on, like you said, a feeder team or you know, whatever team overseas, then that's great.
Yeah.
You know, there's no shortage of hot talent in Australia to back that up next year.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, having seen what it looks like over the last few years and how hard it is for riders to get to Europe, you know, I'm really interested in helping create that pathway.
Yeah.
If the riders come on and spend a couple of years on the team and have success by, you know, moving on to a bigger team, then that's awesome. Then I think we've done our job.
Yeah, exactly. Who's kind of funding this, and like how are you raising money for you guys to get over there? Are you all kind of chipping into one big pot, or like, do you know a rough price estimate of what it would cost for someone to go and do a full season? Because I haven't seen anyone really put it out there before.
No, I mean, there's a million ways you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, you can obviously go a lot of privateers that go on dirtbag in the van and, you know, living in the campground at Morzine all summer, that sort of thing. And I suppose you can do that relatively inexpensively. Again, I think that's one of the benefits of doing it as a team, because we've been able to book more group accommodation, bigger and cheaper per head type stuff.
Yeah.
So this year is definitely, it's a bit of a mixed model.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of you know, I guess self-funding from the riders and parents and people who might have paid that money to go racing anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we're setting up the team infrastructure.
Yep.
And you know, still working on some external funding to help smooth that way a little bit. Yeah. Got a few things in the works that haven't quite landed just yet, but you know, if that does, that'll really help with a bit of help with a few subsidies, get riders to more rounds where possible, that sort of thing. I mean, that's the goal, more racing exposure. That's what we want.
And it's hugely different over there, right? Like you see some of Australia's best riders go over there and absolutely struggle because it's so much different. The terrain's different, the race style's different, everything. So giving these kids and these guys exposure is huge.
I think it's a lot of the little things too. Like you know, if you're living out of the back of your van or you're living in a hotel with strange food and you know, you get so used to your groove. Like Australia's an easy place, Adelaide even more so, an easy place to go racing. You know, you've got good access to your car, all the stuff you've got with you. Yeah. You head overseas, and if you're by yourself, you've got your little, you know, little toolkit, a few spares. Yeah, and you know, winging a prayer, and you got to make it work. And we, you know, we did a bit of that last year. We prepped really well. Yeah, barely needed anything. Like everything held together really well. Obviously, with other Aussies out there on the circuit, got some good advice, got a bit of help from some of the other, Aussies that we knew. But otherwise, it's an unfamiliar environment. And so to create a more comfortable space, both physically and mentally, in a consistent space, like, hey, we're at the races, we've got the pit set up, we've got the trainer, we've got, decent tools. There's support mechanically either inside the pits or, from outside. But to create that kind of consistent space where hopefully the riders can just get on with it and get racing.
Yeah. Which is the biggest change I've heard from going from that. I think even Ollie's Wild said it to me the other day, or said it somewhere, but even going from the Union, which is the Eurofeeder team, to the factory FMD, he's just all I do is sit down. I rock up and I walk my bike over and sit down and think about my race and then hop back on my bike. And go on.
We won't quite be we're not going to be there yet. We're going to be definitely I'll be expecting Kael to do his share of the dishes.
For sure. Where was I going from that? Why do you think it's been so hard? You had this theory and I kind of never thought about it and I agree with it, but why do you think it's been so hard for Aussies to take that next step or get noticed by people without going over to Europe?
I mean, so many of the teams are Euro-based.
Yeah.
Right? That's the environment that they've grown up in. They're surrounded by, an existing community of, shit-hot riders. And so in some sense, do they have to look outside of that bubble to find these riders?
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. But I do wonder if, and obviously it's just so much more expensive for Australians to go and just have a taste of it. We can't just drive over to Thredbo and try out a big track. Sure, we can do that here.
Yeah.
And the equivalent of that in Europe is pretty easy.
Yeah.
You've got great feeder systems in Europe through the IXS Cup. There's a whole range of those, races through that race program all the way up to, the IXS, like the one Kael did in Pila. But it's obviously not easy to get there. And I also do wonder as well that because our race season, well, apart from Adelaide, of course, but for the national race season, where we are sort of December-ish through to March or April, a lot of the thinking around, a lot of the planning of who's going to be on these teams, how that works, that happens towards the back end of the calendar year. And I'm sure by the time, given that, Team Rego cut-offs in the middle of January.
Yeah.
So everyone that really knows what they're doing, in the latter part of the year. We haven't even started our National Series racing by then.
Yeah.
So any kind of results, you're going to be talking about are a year old.
Yeah.
So by the time we get around to having our National Series, all those teams are locked in. And I think it means you would really have to stand out way more the year before you get to sort of show where you're at and progress in this current season, because it's all closed off, it's all done.
Which kind of makes sense, because I figure it'd be the same for New Zealand as well, and they've got an amazing riding team there, obviously, with quick people, and then
I know
it's only 4 or 5 people on the world circuit,
bit like here, it's a pretty solid race scene, and a few make it for sure.
Yeah, and when they do make it, they make it big though. So yeah, you've obviously got all those inside sponsors from.
Oh yeah.
Every athlete's obviously got all their bike brand sponsors, and you mentioned that Ellie's got her big long lasting sponsors, and everyone else has got theirs. But they're all bike industry related, and it's mainly because every individual athlete is involved with this sport.
Yeah.
But you as a team are more of that pathway. You're trying to provide the guidance. You're trying to boost them up so that perhaps they can go onto that world stage and get on the podium at World Champs or at a World Cup and be on those big teams.
Yeah, or at least a stepping stone to get to more races or get on a feeder team or whatever. But
does that mean you can actually approach out of industry sponsors, or you're looking at out industry sponsors? Because they're going to help guide your team as a whole.
We are, we've got a couple of irons in the fire at the moment, but if the riders, like I said, the riders do have most of their own sponsors that they've had for some time already. And if we are going to be that kind of development team or pathway team to just that first step to get out of Australia and get to Europe and get exposed, then what we are really looking for is more involvement, more partnerships outside of the bike industry, and that way it's not going to interfere with any existing sponsors. We're not going to go pick up a bike industry clothing sponsor. We're not going to go pick up a wheel sponsor or whatever, because it's going to clash with someone at some point. If not this year, then maybe next year. And so the relationships we're out trying to build are outside of the bike industry. So it's brands that will identify with a group of young Aussie kids trying to have a go, young athletes, that style of thing, and bring in some fresh product into the bike industry or into the racing scene, and a bit of funding based on that.
Yeah. So if anyone from United Arab Airlines or Singapore Airlines or someone is listening, then
when you look at what it costs to get over to Europe, then certainly one of the major accommodation providers would be pretty nice. But
Airbnb CEO or someone.
I don't know. But certainly, that's in Europe. But of course, remember that we still want to run races as a team in Australia, and so we're very much about getting exposure for Australian kids and Australian brands. I really think that the Aussie racing scene is really top notch here. You go to those big events, they're just run, Threadbow, Cannonball, the stuff down at Medina. It's just run so top notch and produces such good racing that leveraging that and getting those riders, those kids that are able to perform at that level, then it's the what next step.
And for last at least 5-6 years, there hasn't been teams at those either, really. Other than you see the SRAM Pit and you see the Crush Tent, you see every brand there, but you don't see many teams. Whereas now there's kind of 4 or 5 within Australia, and
it's getting there, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. It's maybe hopefully returning to a bit of strength again. I'm super keen to see what happens with the Aussie series, with the national series again over the next couple of years. It's obviously been gone a long time. Kudos to Oz Cycling and all the individual clubs that pitched in to have a bit of a test run this summer, and give it a shot. It's gonna get bigger and stronger, from here on in. So as that scene redevelops, and gets stronger again, then we'll maintain our presence and focus on Aussie national racing in the summer. Riders with their own kit, and we'll be in a great position to support and provide exposure for any Aussie brands that end up on board. Yeah,
that's sick. I rate that idea too. And just getting those outside sponsors, getting that support, getting everyone in. Yeah, that's sick.
I mean, you can see that there have been times in mountain biking history where there's been a lot more outside involvement, and obviously, we see it in Europe. There's
Volvo Cannondale.
Yeah, for sure. There was some big money back in the 90s and 2000s that were outside of the industry.
Yeah.
It can only be good for the sport that happens more. And maybe this year with a change in structure at the World Cup level, more eyeballs. Yeah. Maybe that's going to help.
That's going to be huge. Everyone's doubting this new thing, but I think it's going to be massive.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes, but we're definitely pretty excited.
Yeah.
We've only got a few days left in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So the Mad Pack Up is on, and some of the other guys are flying in 2 days' time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be rad to get over there and get a bit of prep time in. And
are you still worried that you're going to sit on the airplane and see if we got something? Or?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Damn, I forgot my work laptop.
We've got lists upon lists upon lists.
Yeah.
No. It's been a slow process prepping for a long time, and obviously we're not going to the moon, so there's plenty of stuff to. We can fill in some gaps when we get there, but I think things are about as prepped as we can be from Adelaide, and having to deal with baggage limitations and all the rest of that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on doing all the races this year then, or how's that kind of planned out?
It's yes so far. Not every rider will end up doing every round. It is a bit of a mixed bag, but I know that like me personally, Kael will stay and do all of the European rounds. We would like to do the 2 North American rounds. Or perhaps, maybe he will. We'll see how I go. So we're definitely locked in to do the first 6 in Europe. And obviously, luckily for him, as your national champ, he's locked into the Worlds as well already, which is awesome.
Sick.
So yeah, we're locked into that. We'll do the test event down in Loudenville as well. Which will be a nice break before the Worlds to head down there for another race. But yeah, I think most of the team will do most of the rounds in Europe. North America, like I said, is still a little bit up in the air how we handle that so far.
Are you keen for the World Bike Festival celebration of cycling thing they're having there with all the world events on? The Road Worlds BMX
in Fort William?
Yeah.
It blows my mind how big of an event that is going to be.
Yeah.
Like having seen the Worlds last year, and having a bit of an insight into what it takes to run some races. Yeah. That's going to be massive.
Yeah.
That'll be so huge.
I'm jealous that you get to see that finish line, because coming into that corral is going to be wild.
Yeah, I know
for everyone. Yeah,
it'll be wild, won't it? Like huge experience. So and it's great. There's going to be on August. Should be a good time of the year. That's going to be about as good as the weather is going to get.
Yeah, some mild rain and
who knows? Sunny one day, shit house the next.
But
that's part of it.
Do you guys have goals set out for the guys riding on your team? So if, say, one of them's not winning or someone's not doing a certain thing, like how's that kind of come into play as well?
I think, the riders obviously have their own goals of where they think they are and so on. But I think more generally, again, for me, it's and Kael, it's really about those personal progress goals. I know, having spoken a lot with Will and Alex, that first year juniors is really about go over there, check it out, get exposed, see some tracks, that sort of thing, without too much expectation, and treat it as just a massive year of learning. This year, Kael's no doubt going to want to step it up a bit. I think going to Europe was pretty amazing for him last year. And so, he's got some goals, but he's also very careful not to, put too much pressure on actual goals, but more talk about progress and how we're learning how to approach those races. And I think Ellie's going to have a wild year. If she stays in one piece, she's going to have a wild year. She said she's super keen to really give it a nudge and get to all of those events. Throw in a Crankworks or two as well. Her and Duke planning on getting to those. Some of the team are going to do the Crankworks at Innsbruck as well. I think some of us will maybe just go and watch, but some of the crew will be racing for sure. It's a lot of racing in a very short period of time. It is a lot. I think if you throw Crankworks in there as well, it's 4 weekends straight. That's wild. I'm tired thinking about it. You can have that. So you've got all this planning, you've done all this work, but how have you managed to fit this in with your day job, working with kids? Like, you got 2 kids, you always got the wife, you got everything going on in life as well. Somehow, and look, it's once we got going and once we made that decision that, hey, I think it looks feasible, and a couple of things fell into place so that it would work. It was a shitload of work, an absolute shitload of work. I know I almost had another half-time job at nights for a month or so there, trying to pull some stuff together. But once we'd once we pulled the trigger, there was no going back. And so for me, it's just head down, get on with it.
Yeah.
And because I just am so keen to make it, you know, to follow through with it and make it work this year.
Yeah.
You just got to get it done.
Yeah. You just end up running off that motivation to get off there, and energy doesn't matter anymore, right? You just...
Oh, look, I mean, yeah, sometimes you burn the candle a bit, but you just got to do it. And, you know, and it's been great having Jeremy bounce things off as well, as we're talking about what the plans are. Do we go here? Do we go there? How do we approach certain things? You know, it's been great to have him to bounce things off to make plans for sure.
Yeah, it's not just you. It's both of you guys.
No, I probably would have gone a bit nuts if it was just me, just by myself.
More nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We touched on the sponsorships before, but it seems like a lot of sponsors just, this is from the outside looking in, just give a bit of equipment but no real direction and how to actually succeed at the sport. Is that something you kind of want to help with, or is that something you're looking at doing, and maybe in the next 2 or 3 years you become this team that can actually coach and bring up people through the system without just throwing product or support at them?
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I would like to think that we certainly can add something to that. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this if we were just, you know, booking hotel rooms and leaving it at that.
Yeah.
Certainly, you know, we're here because we think we can add value to that rider to go out and do their best.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been in and around racing in different forms for a long, long time. And, you know, Jeremy as well. I mean, he's, you know, raced a bit of mountain bikes back in his day and was a moto dude as well.
Yeah.
So certainly we think we can offer a bit of that support. Like you said, we're not throwing equipment at people and saying, here, you know, just get on with it. The riders have come with their own brands, which is awesome. You know, they've got their own gear they're used to. But if you are by yourself, sort of stuck in Europe, we're going to be able to help provide the team support, pit support, and at the same time, you know, we'll be doing some great work with a couple of the media companies. You might have heard of some dude, Jack Fletcher Media. Has been instrumental with a lot of advice and some other good stuff. And Ollie Crew as well, a young lad on the East Coast who's you know, makes pretty amazing content.
Up and up.
He makes some really sharp stuff. So we'll definitely work with those guys to, you know, get that team brand out, and then all the individual riders will be able to leverage that as well to get a bit more content out as well. So it's hopefully it helps them with their relationships, with their exposure for their sponsors, and they continue developing that.
Yeah. And the media crew and having those links as well is super important, especially over there if you're going to be throwing your dad cam around and you got someone here to help edit it, or
that's it. Dangerous with the dad cam for sure.
Yeah. I've heard it's been a mum cam for a long time though.
Oh, the mum cam got a run at Wollonga for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've found myself a bit too busy. You know, Eagle Fest was just an absolute, you know, dog show not a dog show. The event was awesome, but, you know, it was like 14-hour days trying to get that thing going. So with the club. So I didn't do a lot of dad camming there, but did a little bit of Threadbow.
And then you had to focus on beating your youngest son at Wollonga as well, I guess.
Yeah, the challenge was thrown down.
That's the biggest race of your year, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I really loved that process when Kael was younger, you know, as he came up.
Yeah.
And me getting back into riding again. We kind of both progressed again for a few years and the battle was on. And then obviously once that happened, he was just off, you know, smoked me.
We're going to see you at Masters Worlds one day?
Nah.
No?
But yeah, I get to do the same thing with the second kiddo now with Leith. So
sick.
It's going to be fun. But I suspect if he has, you know, he's pretty new to bikes, but I'd give him a year's racing and I'm sure he'll be smoking me too.
Oh, yeah, he's not far off it. He's very quick at the moment as it is.
I'm surely getting older and slower, so.
I wouldn't say that. Sick. Might start wrapping things up a little bit. 3 questions I tend to ask everyone, and you've probably heard them.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah. For you, I think a good one is, what is your advice for getting your child, someone that's getting their child into racing what is your advice for kind of getting him into racing in a healthy environment and bringing him up to be a good sportsman? And because obviously I've seen Kael at the races, and he's probably one of the most sportsman-like people and enjoys the ride on his bike, and he's not and you're not one of those BMX dads that's hounding him down. Like, do you have any advice for getting the kids into racing without, going too far?
I think the starting point has just got to be getting into riding, or even that, as I say, it sounds a bit wrong. It's not getting them into riding, but exposing them to riding in some form. And if they love it, they'll go with it.
Yeah.
Like our kids were really different. One was drifting the plastic scooter and hucking off the front step at a young age. Leith less so. He wasn't into it.
Yeah.
He's come around of his own years later.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually exposing and encouraging them for sure.
Yeah.
Both boys did a few years of BMX, which was great, get a few skills up.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they sort of thought, this is not really for me, and got them on a little cheap mountain bike, and they just loved it. So it's really just about exposure. Like, try different things. Go out, go BMX racing, take them to the little BMX track, take them to the little jump park, lose some skin, and then just expose them to riding. And if that turns into racing, then so be it. You just got to support it and understand that it's a massive journey. It's a huge journey to get to second year under 19s and be doing well, or Josh and Ellie and that doing well, a few years into elite type thing. It's a big journey. Yeah. And at the heart of that has got to be just absolutely loving ripping.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you are. Just getting out there and having fun and doing tons of laps.
Yeah. Sick. Perfect.
Tons of laps.
I was going to say, is there anything you wish you'd kind of done differently over the last few years, or setting up this team, or with the kids?
Yeah. Not really. I mean, when I came back to doing a bit more riding, my only regret was probably stepping away for 10 years. Because it's been so much fun coming back and just being part of that, community and the club. But no, I mean, I don't think that the kids have been pushed into anything they don't want. I think that, all the parents, in the team, we look at the history that they've had. They've all been super supportive of their individual riders. And that's about all you can hope for sure.
Before we move on to the last question, though, we're going to be doing some more podcasts later on in the year, which I thought we should mention. So we're going to have, after every round, we're going to have a couple of you guys on, see how the racing's going. You guys keen for that? And
yeah, we're super keen for sure.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's frothing to get to the first round, and so I think it'll be really good insight into what it's like for a privateer, team. Yeah. There's a lot of Aussies on teams this year. It's I don't know. I think it's probably the most I've ever seen or most I've ever heard about. But there's 4 teams. Yeah. Obviously on top of all the pro teams. Yeah. So just to me, that just goes to show like how strong the racing scene here is. That there's 15 to 20 riders of that caliber who get over there. So no, that'll be awesome. See how the riders go on every event and get some insight into what it's like. Eating 2-minute noodles out the back of the van.
And then last question. Obviously, you've been pulling some big hours. You've been, on burning the candle at all 3 ends at some points. What do you kind of listen to? What do you do to get motivated or get the energy to? Do you have music or anything to kick your ass into gear? And
definitely like a pretty wide range of music for sure.
Yeah,
I'm a bit of a bandit for some 80s metal still. I grew up with my first music purchases back in the 80s were on vinyl. Yeah, and I still have that vinyl. So big on the the Iron Maiden and that genre of music back then. Yeah, plenty of Sabbath and that sort of stuff, which the kids are into on and off. But otherwise, I mean, love a bit of electronic music, a bit of psytrance, and a bit of other beats that get you moving for sure.
Did you ever go down the 80s hair metal route? Or?
Not really, no.
No, you weren't into that?
No, not really.
No Motley Crue or anything like that?
No. Oh, Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Everyone did their toes in.
They were fringe between hair metal and real metal. Come on.
Yeah. We're going to find some 80s photos of you with like a stressed out perm and some leopard print pants.
I don't know about the perm, but yeah, there might be some scary 90s photos.
Yeah, good. Well, Jamie, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure and good to chat to you properly and listen to your stories.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
We'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. We'll be about 3 seconds. Cheers. There we go. That is that episode with Jamie Foale, an absolute legend of sport here in SA and taking things nationally as well. Can't wait to see what those guys do. And as I mentioned in the potty, we are going to keep in touch with the guys. So after every round, we're going to be chatting with a couple of them from the team, get a bit of a race update, get some core stuff, just check in. It's going to be rad. Anyway, as per usual, thanks to our sponsors, Trek, Franked, Fist, Shred, Lead Out Sports, Taylor Trails, and Dirt Surfers, and of course Capped Out Caps for keeping this series running. Make sure you support those who support us. Use the code Beyond the Tape or Beyond the Tape 10 to get a bit of a discount, and also let them know that you're going there from us. If you want to support the podcast for free, tell your mum, tell your nana, tell your dog, tell your bird, get them to spread the word, and also jump over to beyondtape.com.au and get some merch. Anyway, till the next one, have a bunch of fun.